Right, fire it up. Just do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
Have fun, take a deep breath.
Give him hell at the end. You like this?
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative.
You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down. 14.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. So, is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah.
11 got it. Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
He put yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
Oop, helps to turn that on. Welcome back to another week of Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and we are headed to sunny Southern California. We hope there's sun today. I mean, the sun will be up there. But the question is, does the clouds move out? And does the cold weather happen to move out? Because it has been very, very wet, very snowy, very cold, and not what we would expect at Auto Club Speedway for what looks to be the final race on this configuration, and maybe even the final race at that property. Who knows? All things seem to be up in the air at this point. But either way, we are headed to Auto Club. But before we get there, let's take a look back at last week's. I mean, I can't say it's a surprise, but I mean, a little bit of an underdog team coming through with the victory late in the race. The longest Daytona 500. I think they ended up going 219 laps or something. I can't. 212. It was a lot. Either way, it was the longest Daytona 500. Well over the scheduled 500 laps because of a couple of green-white checkered restarts and cleanups. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. ends up pulling it out in the end. But let's take a look at the results from that race. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting 31st. I mean, just kind of like we talked about, it was going to be most of the guys in the back. We had one driver who started in the top 10 that finished in the top 10 that made the optimal lineup, which would have been Chris Buescher, who pretty much pushed Brad Keselowski around most of the afternoon and early evening, and actually led 32 laps, so quite a few laps led by him. But as we can see, like I said, it was going to be mostly the back markers guys. I mean, Riley Herbst starting 38th, Travis Pastrana starting 40th, both finishing just right at the top 10 or right outside the top 10. Only 2 finishers in the top 5. And we had $13,000 left, which I expected to be somewhere into that ballpark. So, like I said, we did not need to spend near the salary cap for this. Today's race will be different, guaranteed on that. But optimal lineup race challenge, it's pretty much these 6 guys are on the board. Who will put their name on the board this week? Let's kind of go and try to figure that out and break that down. As we head to, like I said, Auto Club Speedway in Southern California. Yesterday's Xfinity race is postponed, so we get a special doubleheader today. So if you're also doing Draftkings for that, it's already locked and loaded. So can't get into that one, but you still have time to get into this one. Track length here, it's a large oval. Track length is 2 miles in length, 14 degrees in banking. The race length today is 200 laps, so exactly the same amount of laps as last week, so our Dominator points are the same. We potentially could have somebody who we need to look at for Dominator points, but my guess is because practice and qualifying were both rained out, so we went to the pandemic issued matrix qualifying order, which pretty much really leans heavily onto the finish of last week's race. That is kind of where the starting lineup came from. But, I mean, a lot of these guys, I mean, these teams should be well ready and ready to go for today's race, but they haven't turned a lap on this track. This track is much trickier than you would think. I mean, it's a big, high-speed oval, decent banking, it's got 5 lanes of 5 lanes that you could run in the corners. You can shoot 4 or 5 wide down the backstretch. There will be some drafting that will come into play, but nowhere near the pack drafting that we saw at Daytona. But tire wear is going to be tremendous here. It's going to be cold. It's going to be slippery. The tires are going to fall off. They're going to go through heat cycles because of the cold weather. Yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting race, to say the least. Hey, make sure you hit me up in the or hit me up in the chat. Let me know who you like. Do you think anybody from the top 5 ends up dominating and winning this thing, or are we going to see mostly guys coming from the back? And there's a lot of really, I would consider potential winners, even starting outside 31st to 36th place. But we comparison tracks. Michigan is almost identical to this. So we lean on a lot of Michigan information, as well as the previous 2 races here at Auto Club, one from 2022, mostly because of the next-gen car in this configuration, and Michigan's 2022. We'll also look at Las Vegas and Kansas when I do my matrix to figure out who and what. All right, my dog's barking. Sorry about that. Hopefully somebody gets him quickly and shuts him up. But all right, so let's get into it. We're breaking down the drivers for this week. Like I said earlier, we are using Auto Club from last year, Michigan from last year, Auto Club from 2020, Michigan from 21, and the fall race of 2020. Only 2 of the races have the next-gen car in that equation. So what we have here, I always go over this every week. Inside this box here is a breakdown of all of the stats and stuff that I'm looking at. Kyle Larson, $10,800. That is his price tag on Draftkings. He is starting 15th. If they had practice, I would put practice information into this, but since there was no practice, this spot is going to just say no practice. But typically that would have, how many laps they ran and how fast they were and all that type of comparison stuff. So if you turn in for next week. Then once we get down to this next level line here, this is the number of starts. If this is blank, they started all the races. But it's taking this into account when we talk about this line here. So 4 starts for Kyle Larson. He did miss the Michigan Fall 2000 race. But in those 5 races, he's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 46.7 DraftKings average, and an 8th place average finish. He finished first in this particular race last year. He has raced 8 times at Auto Club Speedway. So this over here is a full history of just Auto Club Speedway. So Kyle Larson has a total of 8 starts here at Auto Club. And out of those 8 starts, he has 2 wins, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. So 50% of the time, he's going to be probably in the top 10. So pretty good odds here. Kyle Larson, this is his type of track. High tire wear. They can run up right next to the wall. Use that cushion to help. And, yeah, so Kyle Larson's very, very good at this track. There are a couple other ones. But starting 15th for Kyle Larson, there's some place differential upside as well as potential dominator points in here. So I do like Kyle Larson a lot. Over here to the top left, this is my ranking system. And I have Kyle Larson ranked 2nd for today. That takes into account these 5 races. Then I pull it out a little bit further, and that's where I pull in Kansas and Las Vegas. Excuse me. And then I look at starting, practice, and those types of things. Since no practice starting, that really accounts for place differential up or down. So with all that being said, I have Kyle Larson second on my ranking system, and I've got him to 40-45% of my ownership. All right, now we'll start to break down the rest of the drivers, and we'll kind of go through it a little bit faster than breaking down each one. Thanks for joining. Hit me up in that chat. Let me know who you like and who you don't like today. Today's going to be a lot of guys from the back, and that is going to be the consensus for a lot of people. They're going to really hone in on those guys starting 31st through 36. So that may give some opportunities to some guys like maybe a little bit less ownership for Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin starting kind of middle of the pack, but have the potential to run up front. Denny Hamlin, 10,600, starting 13th. Out of the last 5 races, which again are up here, he's got 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s, a 53.4 Draftkings average, and he does own the best average finish of 6.2 out of those 5 races compared to everyone else. He finished 15th in this race last year. He's got 20 total starts here at Auto Club with 2 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and 14 top 20s. So that number is slightly different because we throw in Michigan to this mix. So Chase Elliott, 10,500. Here's one of our first drivers with a ton of PD upside play. Chase Elliott starting 33rd. He's never won here at Auto Club, but does have 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, and 4 top 20s at our comparison tracks with a 36.6 Draftkings average and 11.6 average finish. If he gets an 11th place finish today, that's solidly probably going to be at least in the top 10 of points, DraftKings points getters today. So he finished 26th in this race last year. Last year was crazy because of this next-gen car. They hadn't raced on anything like it. The rear end was super snappy. Tire wear was massive. They were losing left rear tires. Yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff. But 6 total starts here at Auto Club with 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. So, I mean, like I said, starting 33rd, ton of PD upside play. He is going to be heavily owned. I expect him probably at least 30-35% ownership, if not more. I have him ranked 4th on my ranking system. All right, next in line here, Kyle Busch, 10,300, starting 21st. Decent amount of PD upside potential again here with Kyle Busch, not as much as Chase Elliott and some of these others we'll get to in a minute, but 10,300. Chase Elliott's stats are really good here at Auto Club Speedway. He's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 4 top 20s at the 5 comparison races, a 31.1 Draftkings average, a 12.6 average finish. He finished 14th in this race last year after having all sorts of problems last year, was able to rally back and finish 14th. He has raced here 23 times with 4 wins, 12 top 10s, 16 top 20s, 18 top 20s, 16 top 10s. I mean, over half the time he's finishing in the top 5. So if we can get a top 5 finish out of Kyle Busch starting 21st, yeah, that's a good PD upside play too. So yeah, I've got him 13th on my ranking system, mostly because, yeah, that probably should be a little higher. I don't know why that's at 13. But either way, I've got him in 20-25% of my ownership. Ryan Blaney, 10,100, starting 9th. Not as much PD upside play, but a solid pick either way. He does have 1 win out of the 5 comparison tracks, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 29.8 Draftkings average, and a 16.2 average finish. He did finish 18th in this race last year. 6 total starts here at Auto Club with 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. I do like Ryan Blaney potentially as a win, maybe not as fully for DraftKings points, but if you're on the betting edge, he's going to be able to probably get up into the top 5, top 3 fairly quickly. So keep that in mind today. All right, next in line here, Ross Chastain, starting 8th, $9,900. I've got him 16th on my ranking systems. His stats are not great at this style track. It really doesn't kind of fit his real style, but he does have 1 top 20 in 4 of the last 5 starts at our comparison tracks, 18th Draftkings average, 26.3 average finish. Finished 29th in this race last year. And like I said, he's only got 4 starts total here at Auto Club with the 1 top 20. So not great stats in starting 8th, not a lot of PD upside play. I've only got 5 to 10% of my lineups. Joey Logano starting 3rd. Oh, don't think I have him in 145% of my lineups. That's a misprint. It's 15%. 9,700 starting 3rd. Not a whole lot of PD upside potential here, but potential dominator points. Fords are really, really fast this year. Great horsepower. We saw that on display at Daytona last week. Even without the draft, they were able to run with everyone else. So Fords have got some power. We'll see if that equates to Auto Club. But either way, $9,700 in the last 5 of the comparison tracks, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 31.7 DraftKings average, 11.8 average finish. He did finish 5th in this race last year. 15 total starts, 7 top 5s, 8 top 10s. I've got him ranked 6th on my ranking system, and I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. I just think there's so much more potential for points with guys starting in the 20s and 30s. I mean, I do have some ownership with some people in the teens, but starting 3rd kind of worries me a little bit for DraftKings points. Joey Logano could easily have some dominator points, which would help him in getting that win. So I think we'll still see somebody from this top 10 finish in the optimal lineup. But it's only probably going to be one, and it's going to be somebody who leads a ton of laps if he gets to do that. Christopher Bell next in line here, 9,500, starting 1st. Unfortunately, Christopher Bell starting 1st and having only 2 top 20s and no top 10s out of the 5 comparison tracks, and a 26th place average finish where he finished 36th in this race last year. I don't have a whole lot of interest in Christopher Bell starting 1st. He has led laps here before and just had some bad luck, but starting 1st, it's too risky. The highest starter that I would go is probably Joey Logano starting 3rd, and I don't love that play either. Other than I think Joey could lead some laps and get some potential dominator points. Next in line here is Martin Truex Jr. at 9,300, starting 14th. Like I said, I really think this is kind of where you can differentiate your lineups with a lot of other people who are going to have these guys starting in the 30s. I think, you get a tiny bit of PD upside play with a Martin Truex or Denny Hamlin or Kyle Larson. But starting 14th, a little bit of PD upside play. He does have a decent record here. He's got a 9.2 average finish out of the comparison tracks. He has won here at Auto Club once. And he's got 14 top 20s and 7 top 10s out of 21 starts. So I've got him in 30 to 35% of my lineups and 9th on the ranking system. Hey, hit me up in the chat. Let me know who you like today, who you don't like today. Are you taking everyone from the back? You got anybody up front that may stay up front and give us some dominator points? Let me know in the chat. Would love to hear your thoughts. Also, hit that like and subscribe button. And welcome to 2023 Breakdown with me. Tyler Reddick, $9,100. Here's another guy, starting 35th. Almost shotgun on the field for Tyler Reddick at $9,100. He's going to be heavily owned, and I've got quite a bit of ownership in him. It's kind of one of those, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't take him and half the field has him, you're going to miss out on half the field. Now, if only half the field takes him, the other half doesn't. More than likely, though, they're going to cover up with the Chase Elliott's, Tyler Reddicks, and those guys that are also starting in the 30s. But Tyler Reddick led laps here last year. He was extremely fast, had tire issues towards the end, which caused him some heartbreak. But being in this Toyota, he should be very quick. I expect him to easily come up through the field and probably get himself a top 10, if not a top 5. So I think Tyler Reddick is somebody to take from the back, but he's going to be heavily owned. Just know that going into it, that it's kind of a wash, in my opinion. But I mean, the Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott's, Eric Jones, and those guys starting from the back could all tangle themselves up or get tangled up in one of the slower cars, and their day's done. So that I run 40 lineups, and so I've only got him in 45% of my lineups. So I do have some room and some other guys in some other lineups. And, you know, if you're just running one lineup, it's kind of tough to sway away from a Tyler Reddick that runs fairly well at this style track and has a ton of PD upside play. So I understand taking him. I also understand trying to differentiate. But 9100, his stats are not great. 23.4 average finish, and only one top 20. 2 starts at Auto Club with only 1 top 20. So Tyler Reddick has had some tough luck, but starting that far back, it's almost hard not to have him. Oh, here we go again. Another one. William Byron, 8,900, starting 32nd. He's going to be heavily owned also. Same reason as I just discussed about Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick. William Byron has a little bit better track record here than Tyler Reddick and can get himself up front. In the 5 comparison races, he's got 1 top 5, 1 top 10, and 4 top 20s. But here at Auto Club, he only has 1 top 20 out of the 4 starts. I've got him ranked 3rd. I expect William Byron to find his way up front. And the same reason, I've got him in 40-45% of lineups, because it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And which one of these guys do you differentiate on? You know, do you leave William Byron out? Do you leave a Tyler Reddick out? Do you leave a Chase Elliott out? Do you leave an Eric Jones? We haven't gotten Eric Jones, but he's starting back there also. Or do you take them all? And then what do you do? It's gonna be an interesting look at how the lineup construction ended up turning out. You can almost take everybody that's starting in the 30s, but if one of those guys has a problem, you got an issue. So differentiate and run a couple different lineups. You know, even running the 25-cent lineup, you get a chance to kind of build some lineups and see what happens. So if you're not big into putting a whole lot of money out there and you just want to kind of play and have fun with it, they've got some good contests out there that you can see how you rank up. So Bubba Wallace, 8,700. Starting 18th, Bubba Wallace actually runs fairly well at this style track, and especially last year, towards the end of last year, he really kind of did much better at this style track. He won at Kansas, ran fairly well at Las Vegas. So I expect Bubba Wallace to actually perform fairly well today, starting 18th. This is a good spot to differentiate some of your lineups. Little bit of PD upside play with somebody who runs fairly well at this style track. So $8,700, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, and 3 top 20s out of the 5 comparison tracks. A 17.6 average finish, not bad. And here at Auto Club, he does have only 2 top 20s. But this track's going to be weird today. As cold as it is, as wet as it's been, we're going to have what they call seepers or leakers from the seams because it's old. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. But I've got him in 15 to 20% of my lineups. It does help differentiate, and he's got some PD upside also. Kevin Harvick, 8,500, starting 10th. Not a ton of PD upside here, but he does have the Draftkings average best of the field at a 59.6 and just missing the average finish at 6.4. Kevin Harvick could easily be one that starts in the top 10, stays in the top 10. He does have a win here out of 28 total starts with 21 finishes in the top 20 out of the 28 starts. And in the last 5 races at this style track, he's got 2 wins, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. This is another good spot to differentiate. Maybe not a lot of people go after Kevin because they're pulling too many people from, they're starting in the 30s. So another decent spot to differentiate your field. I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups just for that reason. Alex Bowman, $8,300, does have a win here at Auto Club. He is starting 4th, though. I just don't like the starting spot for Alex today. Everything proves that he could easily finish in the top 5. He's got 1 top 5 finish out of the 6 total races here at Auto Club. A 17.4 average finish, and he finished 25th in this race last year. Has me a little bit concerned. I just don't like the starting spot for Alex Bowman. I think he may finish 8th through 12th, so right there in the 10th place spot, which doesn't do you any good for DraftKings. It's a decent points day for him, but not on DraftKings. So I swayed off of him. I've only got him in 5 to 10% of my lineups. Austin Dillon, 8,100. Here's a great way to differentiate. Starting 28th, Austin Dillon's got a decent track record at this style track. He's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 16.6 average finish. Starting 28th, I don't think he's going to have a huge amount of ownership today. I think he's going to get overlooked by some of the guys that are starting further back. But if he can work his way to the front, I mean, he finished second in this race last year. And I think having Kyle Busch in the stable now at RCR is going to really help Austin Dillon out a lot and kind of give him some real guidance on how to run these types of tracks, even though he didn't do bad last year on his own. But I think having Kyle Busch to lean on and as a teammate is going to help Austin Dillon out tremendously. So, I mean, his stats are good here. 8 total starts. He's got 6 top 20s and 4 top 10s. So half the time he stopped finishing in the top 10. That's a pretty good stat for Austin Dillon starting 28th. If you keep hearing that clicking noise in the background, I've got a turtle and he's going crazy today. I think he wants out. I mean, let him out after this video. All right, keep on rolling here. Next in line here, Brad Keselowski, 7,800, starting 16th. Kind of the same boat. I mean, Brad runs well at this style track. He had a rough go at it last year, joining RFK, and I mean, he ran much better at Daytona. He always runs good at Daytona, but he ran better at Daytona, showed a lot of patience. Maybe this is a spot for you to differentiate also, starting 16th. Brad at 7,800 does have 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s out of the last 5 comparison tracks. Does have a win here at Auto Club, and out of 13 total starts, 7 top 20s, 6 top 10s. Okay, not bad. I've got 11th on the ranking, and I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. Austin Cindric, 7,800, starting 19th. He's got 2 starts, both at Auto Club, one at Michigan, and one at Auto Club and one at Michigan. And he's only got 1 top 20, where he finished 16th in this race last year. He got the pole last year here and fell to 16th. Here's what that does to you. He ended up with a negative 3 point. Well, he has a negative 3.8 DraftKings average between Auto Club and Michigan. Yeah, finishing 16th, starting from the pole, definitely kind of hurts your points day, especially if you don't lead a whole lot of laps. But he's got a 24.5 average finish. So I don't love the Austin Cindric thing. And I also think about green cars, and he's running the Menards green today. I don't know why. It just something about green cars and winning races just doesn't seem to go. It's a superstition. It's a whatever. It's also the same thing with a $50 bill. Don't ever go to Vegas and have a $50 bill on you. They say it's bad luck. So don't paint your race car green. Eric Jones, $7,700. Here's another guy starting from the back, 34th. But Eric Jones runs really well at this style track. I expect him to come to the front. Now the question is, does he get tied up in with somebody coming to the front? That's going to be the tough part. I mean, if these 5 guys that are coming from the back all end up finishing in the top 10, and you're able to fit them into a lineup, somebody who could lead almost every lap from start to finish probably still won't have as many points. Yeah, that is a little tough. You lead them all, you get a lot of points. Like I said, you get 140 or something like that. So yeah, but that's not going to happen today. The tire wear is too significant. But Eric Jones, $7,700, starting 34th. He's going to be heavily owned. And I've got him in 40 to 45% of my lineups. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't have him in your lineup, I've got him in my lineup. Finished 3rd in this race last year. 5 total starts here at. That's a misprint, by the way. He has 5 total starts here, and all 5 of he's finished in the top 20. So 13.2 average finish out of the comparison tracks. I do like Eric Jones today. I just think he's going to be heavily owned, and I've got him heavily owned. So take that for what you want. Here's another one. Starting 31st, Chase Briscoe, 7,500. Starting 31st. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's got an average finish of 15.7 out of 3 of the comparison tracks. Here at Auto Club, he's only got 1 top 20, but out of his starts where he finished 16th, along with Austin Cindric. I must have printed that twice. But the left stat is correct. 3 starts, 3 top 20s, 15.7 average finish. I mean, starting 31st, he's going to be heavily owned. I mean, it's crazy. The lineup construction today took me a while. That's all I can say, is it takes a while to get some differentiating lineups that potentially could end up being profitable. So Daniel Suarez, 7,200, starting 7th. Daniel runs really well at this track. Starting 7th, though. Not a whole lot of PD upside play. He's going to have to go lead laps, finish in the top 3 to really make it pay off. I do have him in 20-25% of my lineups, and I just had to pick a couple guys that I thought may be the different enough and have the possibility of finishing well, that potentially it puts me up in there in case there's some issues with some of these back marker, the guys that are starting from the back, but not back markers by any means. But Daniel Suarez has 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 1 top 20 at the comparison tracks, a 21st place average finish. He finished 4th in this race, though, last year, and out of the 5 total starts here at Auto Club, he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. All right, as we keep going here, our 2023 Daytona 500 winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 7,100, starting outside pole. Yeah, it's a weird matrix that it takes everything into account, but that put Ricky Stenhouse Jr. outside pole for this race. It's not a bad race for him. He races fairly well here, but starting second, you almost have nowhere to go but down. So I don't have a whole lot of ownership and don't really recommend it. I don't think that's a good spot to differentiate on your picks. So yeah, he finished 10th here in this race last year. I mean, it's not a bad combination for him, but starting second, there's just not, I don't think he goes out and leads the 80, 90 laps that I would need to see Ricky lead to make it profitable to put him in any of my lineups. So 0 to 5%. Same thing here with Chris Buescher. I mean, he runs fairly well here. 6,900, starting 5th though. I don't think he finishes any better than there. I mean, he could potentially get a 3rd or 4th, but even then, I don't know if that's enough compared to some of these guys that are starting from the back that are going to have a ton of PD upside. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you going to start anybody in the top 10? Are you pulling everybody from 20th on back? Are you going to have some of these guys that are starting in the teens? How do you differentiate your lineup? Who do you think wins this thing? And let me know in the chat. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Ryan Preece, 6,700. At 6,700, we're now starting to get into a spot of guys that we kind of needed to take to save money from all of the guys that are starting further back. But 6,700, starting 27th. He's 27th in my ranking, mostly because we don't have a whole lot of stats on him. And that's going to be the tough part. But this is going to be some of the best equipment Ryan Preece has ever run this year. He's going to blow his previous stats out of the water. He's a great racer, understands it. He's won in the Truck Series, won in the Xfinity. I expect Ryan Preece to do fairly well in that 41 ride this year. Starting 27th, a decent amount of PD upside play. Is there as much PD upside play as Chase Elliott or Tyler Reddick? Maybe. But it's gonna be fun to watch all these really, really good guys with really good equipment starting from the back coming through this field. Because it's going to be a lot of them. There's going to have to be a lot of patience shown today. Eric Almirola, 6,500, starting 17th. I mean, his stats are pretty good. He's got no top 5s, but 3 top 10s out of the 5 comparison tracks, 4 top 20s, a 14.2 average finish. He finished 6th in this race last year. 14 total starts here at Auto Club, and almost half have been in the top 20. It's a great way to differentiate your lineups compared to everyone else. I do like Almirola a little bit today. I've got him in 25 to 30% of my lineups because I think he's not going to be heavily owned. So, yeah, I mean, Ryan Preece is a great way to differentiate. Eric Almirola, I think these guys starting pretty much 13th to 17th, any of those guys really differentiate your lineup. So put them in with a couple of the guys that are starting from the back and maybe one of the guys that are starting kind of closer to the front. Kevin Harvick, a Joey Logano, those types of things. I think that's going to be kind of the winning combination today. But I don't recommend starting all of the guys from the back. I mean, it could turn out to be that's the case today. And I do have one or two of those types of lineups, but I tried to differentiate and put little bits of them, little bits of that, and little bits of people up front. So that's kind of how I'm building my lineups today. $6,400 for AJ Allmendinger, starting 6th. Yeah, he's not a rookie, but he hasn't run this Cup car a whole lot, and this style track is not really AJ's cup of tea. Now, this track's going to be super loose, so the tire combination is really rough. The track surface is really rough. I just don't like AJ's starting spot. I think he gets a 15th to 20th place maybe finish, but I don't think he's hunting for that top 10. Just my personal opinion about AJ in this style track. So I don't have much of any ownership or interest in AJ today. I'll save that interest for later. Noah Gragson, 6,200. Noah ran really well in the Xfinity Series here. We've only got one start, which was at Michigan for Noah last year, and he finished 30th. And as you can see, he had a negative 4.7 Draftkings. You kind of throw that out the window. Noah's a much better racer than that. He was figuring out this Cup car last year. It drives pretty different than coming from the Xfinity, but Noah had a decent amount of experience in the 48 car towards the end of last year when he filled in for Alex Bowman. So Noah Gregson's got some more experience. I think he's going to do well. Starting 20th has me concerned a little bit, but I'm not sure how Noah's hunting for a top 10, but he could get into the lower teens, which when you differentiate your lineups, Noah could be somebody to take a look at. I don't love him compared to a couple other people that are a little bit below him, but I do have him in a few lineups. Ty Gibbs, I like a little bit more than Noah today. He finished 18th at Michigan. He starting 23rd. If he's smart and he's patient, which both Ty and Noah need to be right now, and really kind of learn this car like they did the Xfinity car. When they do, they're going to be a terror to watch out for. They're going to be the young up-and-coming guys. But Ty Gibbs, 6,100, starting 23rd. Decent amount of PD upside potential here with Ty and Noah. Great way to differentiate your lineups. I've got him in 15 to 20% of my lineups. Justin Haley, starting 29th. This is probably my play for guys that are value picks. 5,900, starting 29th. He's got the equipment. He understands how to run this type of track. In 3 starts, he's only got one top 20, where he finished 23rd. I mean, if Justin Haley can sniff out just inside the top 20, that's all I need for 5,900. And I'll let the Chase Elliott's, Tyler Reddick's, Kyle Larson's do the heavy lifting. So I think Justin Haley's a good way to differentiate, and you've got to save money somewhere. And I think this is it, because once we get just a little bit lower, I don't have any interest in them. Michael McDowell starting 26 is at $5,700. Not really Michael McDowell's cup of tea, but starting 26. I kind of put them right there with Noah Gragson. I don't love Michael today, but Michael had a run last year of 9 or 10 top 10s. Now, they weren't at this style track, but they were at 1.5 miles that run similar. So maybe Michael's kind of figured something out here with this style track. I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. There is some PD upside potential. But, I think Michael's more in the 15 to 20th place finish, which does give you some PD upside. Harrison Burton starting 24th. Don't love Harrison Burton's starting spot. I wish he was starting a little bit further back. 5,500. There is some value savings here, but his stats are not good at this style track. And, he was a rookie last year, so kind of give him a little bit of break, but until you start to prove something to me, I'm probably going to be hesitant on Harrison Burton. And starting 24th, I needed a little more PD upside potential to really take much ownership in Harrison. He is a great way to differentiate the field. I think he's going to be very, very low owned. So that could be a spot if you need to save some money. And the last guy that I have any interest in is Ty Dillon, who is starting shotgun on the field in 36 at 5,300. I mean, he's got 3 top 20s out of his 4 starts out of the comparison tracks. He finished 17th in this race last year. Yeah, I mean, I've got him in 15 to 20% of my lineups, mostly because of where he's starting. I just think that the guys that we're about ready to talk about, I think Ty Dillon finishes in front of. And starting 36, if he can finish 20 to 23rd, that's going to be enough to probably put you in some type of cash lineup, if not potentially even optimal lineup if he does a little bit better. Corey LaJoie, I don't mind. I just don't like his starting spot. Starting 12th, I don't think Corey LaJoie improves his finishing position. I mean, he might sniff a top 10, but he's more likely to sniff out of the top 20. I think Corey's a great guy. I love his podcast and all that, and I think he's great for the sport, but I don't think he or Ty have the equipment to run top 10. And if you're starting 12th, you're just going to go backwards. So I have no interest. Todd Gillen, same thing here. Starting 25th. He's starting too far up. I think he finishes where he starts. And I mean, if you've got to hunt for somebody down here in the $5,000 range, I mean, Todd Gillen might be somebody that you want to mess around with, but nothing's proved anything to me. Cody Ware, great finish at Daytona, but you got to be kidding me. This guy's going to start 11th, and he typically finishes in the 30s. No interest in Cody Ware today, starting 11th. So no interest there. BJ McLeod starting 30th. I mean, he's starting towards the back, but he's got 6 guys behind him that are going to pass him. Plain and simple. He's not going to push his car. He's not going to do anything dumb. He always just kind of hangs out in the back, hopes for attrition. I mean, he was able to finish 22nd in this race last year. I just don't think BJ McLeod, I don't have any interest. There's too many other guys that are going to fly by him. And JJ Yeley starting 22nd. You're starting way too up. He's going to do the same thing as BJ and Cody. They're just going to fall to the back and hang out and wait for the attrition to happen and, maybe get themselves a 25th to 35th place finish. That's just what they do. So that wraps up the driver-by-driver breakdown. Here is kind of my thoughts on who are going to be the highest owned. I think we're looking at Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott being heavily owned. Place differential, Chase Briscoe, Eric Jones. I mean, all those are starting in the 30s. Tyler Reddick starting 35th. Kyle Busch starting 21st. I mean, all of these guys are going to be super heavily owned, which is going to really throw things for a quandary, and you've got to differentiate with your lineups. One of these guys is not going to finish well. Probably more than one. Probably 2 or 3. Question is, can you pick out the 2 or 3 that are not going to finish well and find the 2 or 3 who are? And then we're going to have somebody that's going to end up being, I wouldn't say necessarily a true dominator and lead 30% of the laps, but somebody who's going to lead 20, 25%. Is Ryan Blaney end up coming and finishing, starting 9th and finishing in top 5 and lead a few laps? That we're going to need one of those in our lineup, and we're going to need to find some value. I mean, I think Justin Haley is a great value pick at 5,900, starting 29th, good PD upside potential. Right there with Justin Haley, Ty Gibbs starting 23rd, not as much. And I think Ryan Preece is another one that really should be looked at 6,700, starting 27th. Those are my top 3 value picks: is Ty Gibbs, Justin Haley, and Ryan Preece. I think they could have really good days. Then if you really got to go sniffing towards the bottom, I think Ty Dillon starting 36, just because he's starting dead last on the field. And he's got equipment that's a little bit better than that. Not much, but I think he could get himself into the mid-20s, which is potentially enough when you're talking about somebody at 5,300. And like I said, I have no interest in Todd Gillen, BJ McLeod, Corey LaJoie, Harrison Burton, Cody Ware, or JJ Yeley. They're just all starting too far up for my taste. All right, so let's look at last year's lineups, or the last two races at Auto Club, 2020 and 22. Kyle Larson in last year's race, of course, finished first, started 13th, but we did not have a dominator in that race. 28 laps led for Kyle Larson. We had 5 place differentials. Eric Jones started second and finished third, so it does happen where guys start up front and finish up front and end up in the optimal lineup, so keep that in mind. I think we need one of those in our lineup today. Not necessarily that they're going to go out and be a dominator and lead, like I said, 30-40% of the laps, but they're going to start well and they're going to finish well. We could even have 2, but I think really what we're looking for is probably one person that's going to start in the top 10, two that are starting in between 10th and 20th, and then the other three are going to be out of those three that are starting from the back. Just my take on what I think today's going to bring. In 2020, we had the old generation car. Alex Bowman led 110 laps, started third and finished first, but the rest of what we're looking at is, place differential. It's exactly kind of what I'm thinking today's going to bring. So keep that in mind. We had $500 left last year and $300 left in 2020 at Auto Club. Now let's take a look. Oops, it's supposed to say Michigan up here, but Michigan from 2020 and 2021. So of course, once again, we are talking about the next gen car and the last generation car. So slightly different car, but either way, the configuration's still the same. No dominators, 4 place differentials. So place differential, like as you see down here, are 10 points or more, or 10 positions gained or more. Bubba Wallace went from first to second. Right? Like I said, Bubba Wallace is pretty decent at this style track, so keep an eye on him. Denny Hamlin from 9th to 3rd. The rest of it's all place differential and a little bit of value. The 2020 lineup, we had 1 dominator with Chase Elliott leading 68 laps, 3 place differentials, 2 values, 2 finishes, and we only had 400 and 0 left. So you're probably going to need to spend most of your money. Somewhere between $100 to $500 is probably fine. If you've got $1,000 or $1,500 left in your bank, you might need to try to find something else. All right, hit me up in that chat. Who do you like today? Are you going to spend all your money? Are you going to keep a little bit on the table? Are you going to pull from the back completely, or you got a mix and match? I think you got to differentiate your lineup somewhere to really finish well. I think there's a lot of cash lineups, and I think you could easily cash by taking a bunch of people in the back. But if you're playing in the tournaments, you got to differentiate, and you got to figure out who that needle in the haystack is going to be. I like Justin Haley today. That's my pick for needle in the haystack. So maybe I'll go put a little money on him finishing the top 5. That's just my thoughts. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in. A little bit quicker today. We didn't have practice and qualifying to go over. So I'll let you get to setting your lineups. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, and hit me up in the chat. I'll still be around if you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns. We will see you next week. Enjoy a chilly Auto Club race today and this evening with the Xfinity Series. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and enjoy the doubleheader. Have a good one. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys! Way to rebound! Great job!
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.